Greetings, loved ones. Today we're going to talk about coping with the court process in a sexual abuse case. Step one is the investigative phase. Help us get these messages out. Please subscribe to our channel. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Hit the like button and the notification bell, and please share these messages with others. You could save a life. During the investigative phase of a child's sexual abuse case, several different agencies may be involved in the investigation of the case. The immediate issues to be addressed may include establishing whether sexual abuse has occurred, who abused the child, where the abuse has occurred, and how to ensure the child's immediate and future safety. Other issues focus on the child's medical and psychological needs, and the child may need a medical exam or a psychological assessment. For example, medical testing for injuries or sexually transmitted diseases, or counseling support for symptoms of depression, anxiety, or sudden changes in mood may be necessary. The early investigative phase is a time when many things happen quickly and all at once. Sometimes the information may be confusing, overwhelming, or even conflicting between different service providers involved in the case. It is also a time when children, adolescents, and families are called upon to make many important and potentially difficult decisions and changes, such as whether to have a medical exam or interview, whether to cooperate with law enforcement and child protective services to help build the case and keep the child or adolescent safe from further harm, whether to cut off contact with the abuser, whether to arrange for counseling or mental health treatment. As you navigate the legal process, keep in mind that the most important consideration is the safety and well-being of your child. If you are confused by the legal jargon, getting conflicting information from different people, or just feeling overwhelmed, don't hesitate to reach out for help. For information about mental health treatment of your child, go to www.nctsn.org. We'll have that in the description, and it should show up on the screen here. At this phase of the legal process, the full impact of disclosing sexual abuse becomes real. And your child or adolescent may be forced to talk about the abuse with people who are complete strangers. And this can lead to several difficult reactions, including conflicted feelings about the abuser, especially if he or she is someone the child or adolescent likes, admires, or loves. Then there's guilt about the effect his or her disclosure is having on the abuser's family. There's self-doubt or embarrassment if he or she has unclear or confusing memories about the specifics of the abuse or feels that they may have invited the abuse. Children and adolescents should be reassured that neither the abuse nor the impact of resulting legal process is their fault. The abuser, I'm going to say this, the abuser is the sole person responsible for harm and for setting the legal system into motion. Obtaining appropriate mental health counseling can help children and adolescents deal with both the trauma of abuse and the stresses and confusion involved in the legal process. Over time, children, adolescents, and their families become increasingly familiar and comfortable with the investigators and professionals involved in the case, and may even find them to be a source of comfort and empowerment as the legal process goes on. If either you or the government decide not to go forward with a criminal or child protective services legal case related to the child's sexual abuse, you may feel at a loss because service providers who are assisting you are suddenly no longer there. So it is important to continue to reach out for help from the victim advocacy community if you feel you or your child needs it. And this may include continuing to learn about alternative legal choices such as civil protective orders, obtaining financial assistance, or seeking counseling for yourself and your child. Sometimes when a case is dropped, families can feel betrayed by the process because they wanted the offender to be held more accountable. It can be a harsh reality for families to learn that the legal system relies on obtaining enough evidence to go forward to trial. I'm going to repeat that. Obtaining enough evidence to go forward to trial, rather than on the beliefs of the family and other professionals that the child was indeed abused. Before going forward, I want to explain this. If there's not enough evidence, they can't take the case to trial. That is why it's so important that the victim shares their testimony and that other people who may have seen or heard something give their declaration in it. It's really important to have the physical exam, medical exam for forensics, to not shower or bathe or change clothes so that you're in the same clothes and same condition as the moment the abuse occurred, because lack of evidence means that the prosecutor will not take the case to court. And maybe they have some evidence but not enough, and they take it to court and you lose because there isn't enough evidence to convince a jury that something happened. Evidence is the key point in these cases. Sometimes, okay, so we're going to have a question here. So I feel like no one is talking to us about what is going on with this case. Maybe that's where you're at. What can you do to find out more? In every state, law enforcement and prosecuting attorneys are required to provide crime victims with information about their rights in the system. If there is conflict between the family's interests and the government, families can get information about the case and about the rights of victims from government victim witness assistance. According to the CDC, over half of all children in the world, that is 1 billion children ages 2 to 17, every year experience violence. So the question is not if you'll encounter a victim of violence. The question before God is, what will you do when you do encounter them? You could be the person who saves a life. Micah 6:8 says, He has showed you, O man, what is good. And what does the Lord require of you? To do justice, love mercy, and walk humbly with your God. You are called. We are all called to be champions for justice. There is a way out. It is not your fault. Abuse is not love, and you are not alone. If you're suffering violence, reach out to someone today. If you find yourself in a dangerous situation, call 911 for help. If you know of a child or other person suffering violence, tell the authorities. In our next episode, we will talk about the court process in sexual abuse cases and going to trial. Until then, God bless you.